The NHS patients have been abandoned for 3 days. Why? Because NHS staff are attending a woke pronouns training session. Yeah, no, I'm also getting sick and tired of talking about the same stuff. Despite what politicians and governments say, oh, we are stopping the woke diversity in government, and we have some people in the NHS saying, yeah, we're going to do a crackdown. They continue to do that because the bureaucrats and people in the NHS are not listening to any of the government ministers. They don't care about parliamentary democracy. They don't care about what people in this country actually want, which is for the NHS to look after patients, to treat patients rather than hold them to ransom or just leave and go to a training session. So this story is about initially a leak, but there's a massive backlash because this is part of what we've been talking about over the last couple of days. The Telegraph done a very good investigation into the woke takeover of the Whitehall establishment, and there's a number of civil servants who are kicking off. There are basically, as I said before, it's a British uprising against civil service. So some good civil servants are fighting back. Good news. Brilliant. But this one is also, they have to expose a number of wokey stories, and this is a good one that they have done. More than 1,000 NHS staff have been invited to a 3-day diversity conference that will feature discussions on pronouns and gender. So these people are supposed to be professionals in medicine. So whether they are doctors or nurses or consultants or whatever they are, junior doctors, all of them, even nurses, they must know basic facts about biology, like the basic stuff. Firstly, hypothetically, even if this world of liberal left wokeism, which is actually against science, even hypothetically, if this were factual, then if it's science and if it's factual, then again, the medical professionals should already know anyway before they get their certificates, right? So none of it makes sense. But this conference will include lectures on pronouns, language, and the LGBTQ plus multiply, division, everything else, allyship, and, of course, gender and LGBTQ plus sessions for colleagues working with children. All right. Emails seen by the Telegraph also show healthcare staff were told to complete a mandatory unconscious bias training, which is one of the most disgusting thing that's been promoted over the last few years. It is the definition of societal Marxism to create a new version of class war, and they're doing it with different mindsets. So unconscious bias as a concept is just meaningless because it's about how you act as a human, regardless of what you think subconsciously. Anyway, the former Home Secretary, Priti Patel, says, the alarming rate at which woke ideology is powering through the ranks of the public sector and civil service is shocking. Now we hear of mandatory lectures for health professionals whose focus should be on patient care and not pronouns. The professionalism and impartiality of the machinery of the state is rightly under serious public scrutiny. So it's about time the leadership at the top of government took responsibility and stopped the spread of such activities across the public sector. Remind me again what her job used to be before she resigned. I mean, not that she was Prime Minister, but she was part of the cabinet. But again, we just hear all the right things. Nothing actually happens. So one of the main places that is doing this is Bromley Healthcare. Bromley Healthcare, they love the unicorns and rainbows and ice creams. So colourful ice creams. And they have said that Bromley was found to require improvement in 5 out of the 6 key areas. Basically, they've been failing their inspections. So in basic areas of competence, they've been failing. And this was obviously by independent regulator of the NHS in 2021. Instead of focusing on sorting out the actual healthcare system and fixing the areas of competence, no, they're going to have all these training sessions on pronouns and language. Language, what does that even mean? I mean, it's just everything's so broad. Everything is so open so that they could just post-translate whatever they want. And they could literally, depending on where they are and who they're dealing with and what year it is, they could just change it. It's basically just a framework. The whole woke ideology is a framework, and you can just change it as you go. These people came up with the idea to say BAME or BAME a few years ago to say ethnic minorities. Now they say you're not allowed to say it. You created it. The word woke was invented by them to say we're awakened. We were so aware of injustice, social injustice. Now they say you're not allowed to say it. Absolute craziness. International Pronouns Day. Oh, get ready for this. This is from the Telegraph. In December 2020, ministers banned the training for civil servants in Whitehall after an official review found that no evidence that this training changes behavior in the long term or improves workplace equality and may even lead to unintended negative consequences. So this has been going on for a long time, right? The government have been saying, oh, you shouldn't do this, but they're still doing it. So there's absolutely no point in having either the Tories or Labour in governments, because the establishment, the unelected side, they just do whatever they want anyway. They don't care about democracy. Anyway, in 2020, December, Ms. Scott promoted a blog that she had co-written. So this is actually quite interesting. One of the people in charge involved, she said, International Pronouns Day seeks to make respecting, sharing, and educating about personal pronouns commonplace. Being referred to by the wrong pronouns particularly affects, obviously, people with different genders. I mean, it's just nonsensical. None of it actually makes sense at this point, because in the real world, especially in other countries, people are facing problems, and that includes anything from poverty to basic liberties and or health or standards of living. And the priority is to fix those problems. And in this country, we have relatively fixed most issues, relatively, for the majority of people. So everyone's getting bored, and they're coming up with nonsensical problems, and they're creating villains so that they could be heroes. This is the classic example of middle class, bored middle class, privileged people who have self-hate and self-guilt and white guilt and all that nonsense, and they are the ones who are forcing everybody else to be like them, because otherwise they're going to feel bad about their own lives. It's not my job to be your therapist. Go get your own therapist, and not on the NHS. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.